All right, joining me now is Hadia. She is going to be a keynote speaker at our banquet, our national conference that we hold every year on that Thursday night. She's going to be the keynote speaker for it. You can register for it now at worldviewstore.com. We just opened it up for you this evening. We have 350 seats available at our national conference on Friday night and Saturday. We have about 100 sold already, so we have 250 seats available, okay? We've moved it to the Mid-South. We got our costs down by doing that, and we're passing the savings on to you. We've lowered our ticket price back down to $99. All we're trying to do is break even with our national conference. We don't try to make money on the national conference. We just try to break even. But we do take a big offering for the foundation. So that's what we're counting on. We want a lot of our regular supporters to show up. So we have 250 seats left for the main conference. And then Thursday night before the conference, the banquet we do every year, our formal banquet. And Hadia is going to be one of our keynote speakers. She joins us, and we're glad to have her back to talk about Candace Owen, all of these Islamic compounds and planned communities being built in Dallas, Plano, Irving, Texas, California, all over the place. Talk about that and much more. Hadia, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm super excited to be at the national conference, and it's going to be a great honor. Thank you.
Well, we're honored. For those who maybe don't remember, because we just had you on once, so we're still introducing you to a lot of our audience. For those maybe who didn't see my last interview with you, give our audience a quick bio sketch of yourself, please.
Sure. I worked for 20 plus years for the U.S. government and national security. I was dealing with the threat of Islamic radicalization, both in the United States and abroad. Worked under 5 separate presidential administrations, traveled to 37 countries. My career culminated at FBI headquarters, where I was scaling and replicating a terrorism prevention program that I had built in the private sector. And during that time, I decided to take my head cover off, and the religion absolutely unraveled. I left Islam and just lost without a relationship with God. And I followed a tweet from a girl who said Jesus changed her life, and I was hooked. I actually met the Lord Jesus Christ on YouTube.
Wow. And now you go to the church of Pastor Jack Hayford and spoke with him recently, and that's how I found out about you. So my editor who heard you being interviewed by Jack Hayford.
Jack Hibbs.
Jack Hibbs. Sorry, Jack Hayford. Jack Hayford.
Hibbs, yes.
Jack Hayford's gone on to Jack's gone on to be with the Lord. Jack Hayford has. Sorry, Pastor Hibbs. So sorry about that.
He's
there you
still
go.
with us.
What's that? Yes, your pastor is still with us. Yeah. Church on the Way is who I'm thinking of. He's the one that wrote that song, Majesty, Worship His Majesty, Jack Hayford, years and years ago. Jack Hibbs, he is still very much with us. All right, sorry about that. But yeah, that's how we found out about you, being interviewed by him.
Yes, thank you. I am so grateful for his spiritual covering. When I first came to faith, I went to see him and to tell him my testimony, and I asked him to be my spiritual covering, and he said, absolutely. He's like, you're going to need it. So if anybody comes to question your faith, you bring them to me. So it's really been such a blessing. There's been very, very difficult times, personally, professionally, but he's been there for me the entire time. I'm super grateful to him and to the community at Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills.
Excellent. Well, as you know, because I sent you some videos, we've been covering all of these planned Islamic communities. Plano, Texas, Epic by Dr. Yasser Qadhi. And then we have one in Irving, Texas. We played last night. Gentleman is riding around on his motorcycle giving a tour. It even includes the name of the one of the streets. Now, Ali Akbar is the name of one of the streets, not Allah Akbar, but Ali, which is very interesting because I was asking you about that. Tell our audience what you make of that being one of the names of the streets in Irving, Texas, in this Islamic community where they have the mosque and everything. What do you make of Ali Akbar as the name of a street?
Well, what I found super interesting about that is that Ali Akbar is a descendant of the Prophet Muhammad that follows down the line of the Shia imams. And so nobody would name a street that way unless they were a Shia. So my inclination is to believe this community is a Shia community, and it would be rare to have a Shia Sunni community mixed. I mean, the epicenter is clearly Sunni because of Yasser Qadhi's involvement and the other people in that mosque. So I'm curious whether this is a competition between the two factions and whether they're going to be developing separate communities. But to me, that's a strong indication that it's a Shia community.
Which Shia or Shiite, this would be more, people think aligned with like Iran, Sunni more aligned with
Iran.
Saudi Arabia.
Exactly. So people know a lot about like Wahhabi Islam and Jihadi Islam, the 9/11 terrorists. That's all Sunni sects. And interestingly enough, Hamas, everybody talks about Hamas being supported by Iran, but originally they were Sunni and they were supported by the Middle Eastern Sunni governments. Historically, we understood Hezbollah to be controlled by Iran, but now more recently, Hamas has gotten a lot of support from Iran as well.
For October 7th, for instance.
Right, exactly. And even though they are predominantly a Sunni jihadist group.
Now, there's one of these going on. I haven't shown this one yet. The audience will be seeing this, at least on my broadcast, for the first time. They're building one of these in California as well. Take a look at this.
Oh.
The whole Bay Area can be seen
The
from
Bay
here.
Area.
Brothers and sisters, subhanAllah, look where we are right now. That is the evergreen Islamic.
Now, this looks like the same, it sounds like the same guy. He's got his motorcycle. I don't know if he's actually ridden from Texas all the way to California, but it sure sounds like the same gentleman. Here we go.
Center, the one on Tully Road in the Bay Area. If you remember, the brother who gave a beautiful story, Champion Masjid in Spring, Texas. He used to live here, one of the founders of this masjid, subhanAllah, before he moved there and he built the Champion Masjid. And Allahu Akbar, what a magnificent, massive masjid here in the Bay Area. I can't believe we're here, brothers and sisters. Look, the legacy. Brother, this is your legacy. May Allah bless you.
This is my second experience building or working for the masjid. One I did that in California. If you go to California, San Jose, Tully Road, I was talking to the gentleman from there. Now that masjid is 3-story high.
All the way in Houston, Texas, and all the way here in the Bay Area. Subhanallah, look at this beauty. Look at this beautiful complex here on the top of the hill. This is special, brothers and sisters. This is unbelievable. May Allah bless you, brother, and all the brothers and sisters who have been building these masajid all over the nation.
Mosques are the anchors of our communities. Because wherever a mosque has been built in the 60s, 70s, 80s, in a new community like in the United Kingdom, what you find over time is Muslims start living there. You get Muslim businesses, Muslim restaurants, Muslim charities, Quran clubs. The masjid anchors our entire community. I don't know if someone would think of the idea of ummatics if there were not a generation before us who provided us spaces like mosques as children to read the Quran and to realize that we are connected with others in this space, not through ethnicity, but through La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The mosque is the original identity former of this notion called ummah. Ummah is real. It gets created in real spaces.
So, Adia, clearly they're planting this, and I think that might be the same gentleman on the motorcycle because he makes reference back to being in Texas and Houston.
Right.
So we got Houston, we got Plano, we got Dallas, we got Irving, and of course some of these are suburbs of Dallas. We've got now California. We know we got one going in Lino Lakes, Minnesota, a big one there. I mean, these are going all over the country. And he says that this last gentleman we heard from saying, hey, once we get our mosque built, then the community builds up around it. You have your Quran clubs, you have your Muslim businesses, and we start to grow and everything goes from there. Would you find it interesting that a gentleman working on building a mosque in Houston is now moved over to California? Do you think he's being appointed to go around the country and do these developments? Is he kind of making his way around or what?
Well, I'm sure you've done a number of episodes on like CARE and the National Muslim Organizations. So these organizations have existed, the national umbrella organizations have existed for decades in the United States. And so this networking of leaders across the country has been happening for a very long time. So the fact that the California community is connected to the Minnesota community, connected to Michigan, is not a surprise at all. But what I would like to address with your audience is, what do we do about it? Because once you're at the planning stage and everybody's screaming at a public hearing, it's too late. I think this problem goes back to the Christian malaise in public policy and in the public square. So what happened in our schools and, you know, with the fight that you see going on in the school boards over leftist agendas and this transgenderism and boys and girls sports, all of this stuff and the rise of Islam is the result of Christians not taking territory for the kingdom. We're not planting the flag of Judeo-Christian values and saying, we are a Christian nation and we expect those values to be respected. Take, for example, public school education. The majority of public schools across the United States teach Islam. I actually watched over a dozen videos from kids that were converts to Islam from Christian homes that said they learned about Islam in school. Yet you learn about Islam in school, but you can't bring a Bible to school. So why are we teaching 5th and 6th graders Islam, but not teaching them about Christ? So why are they in religious studies class not having a class on Christianity? So we're just constantly seeding the public square where it gets to the point where now we have to fight them on discrimination laws. So I looked up a bunch of the laws that they're trying to fight now, Governor Abbott. At least it's a noble effort, I hope. But they'll come after the fair housing laws. You're discriminating. You're not allowing other people. And they say, no, we're not discriminating. We can allow other people. Anybody who wants to buy a house here can. Like, who's going to do that, right? In an entire Muslim community. Then they go after, did you deceive investors? So they're trying to go after the security laws and the financial crimes and that angle. But what happens is you will see these communities will get built. And what will happen is that this will damage Muslim women, and especially women like myself, who were in illegal polygamous relationships. And when you want to leave, you have a difficult time leaving because then you've subjected yourself to a different set of laws. And can you imagine if they do that in the city and they can contract away their marital rights, their inheritance rights, their property rights. And then when those people want to leave and come over to the kingdom of Christ, they lose their children. They don't get child support. They can't inherit anything. And then you'll start to see apostasy laws being enforced, where there are honor killings and honor beatings of women who try to leave or to convert. This is happening all over Europe. I am now helping a dear friend of mine who just told her entire family in England she's a Christ, and her mom said her blood was halal, that she shouldn't live through the night. So I am now in the process of her out of the UK because everywhere she goes, there are Muslim police. There are the mosques, the neighborhoods, the shops. Everybody can find her within a matter of days. And so this is what happens when we've ceded the public square to a foreign religion. I don't care what it is. In this case, it's Islam, but even if it's the left, when we cede the country to atheism and demonic activity and the occult, then we get boys and girls sports.
Absolutely. So you're also a trained attorney. So how do you think they're going to be able to go about this? Because you say they're going to try all these different ways, but it's not going to work. By the way, Logan, will you let our studio dog Dolly in? She's whining outside the studio door. What would you recommend? I mean, from a legal perspective, what you think is the best chance they have for stopping this?
Honestly, I don't really know, unless there was some kind of fraud that happened, unless they don't allow non-Muslims to live there. I think what I'm most concerned about that I hope they don't allow is we actually have a system where you could subject yourself by contract to waive your rights, your contractual rights. So I hope they review those contracts and make sure that families and people are not subjecting themselves to Sharia. Like I said, the inheritance, property, marriage, apostasy, so that we're not trapping people in these communities with no way of getting out. Other than that, discrimination laws, they'll look at Title VII things, but I think that the Muslims are probably got this pretty figured out. I think it's really going to come back to what is the rest of the community going to do to prevent these kinds of things in the future.
And this is going on also in Lionel Lakes, Minnesota. Here we go. I don't know. I'm going to watch this for the first time with you guys. We have to sit through an ad first. But I just found, as you were just talking, I just popped it into YouTube and I found it. And I have family and friends up in Minnesota, up in the Twin Cities, and they're talking about it a lot. And here we go. Here's the latest news report I can find on this one. What's that?
If anybody wants to know what this looks like in real time, go visit South Hall. in the outskirts of England, or go to Manchester, or go to Birmingham in England. This is what happens. And we can't just keep ceding territory to beliefs that are outside of our values. And that happens when we just don't secure our own position in society. I'd like to commend President Trump on the National Prayer Breakfast. He announced, I was there, he announced that he's going to have a task force for the protection of Christians, also making sure that we reverse the discrimination of those that are trying to pray outside of abortion centers and opening and protecting pregnancy centers, like all these initiatives where Christians start to raise their voice. But Brandon, if Christians don't stand up and try to raise the voice of Christian believers and try to promote our values, then none of this legislation is going to matter, because we're not doing enough to support our own community.
Indeed. Okay, here's CCO in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul. Here we go.
And tonight, an environmental review board will consider a controversial project in Lino Lakes. Now, housing and businesses are proposed, but it's a mosque that's getting attention.
And neighbors last night packed a meeting urging city council members to consider a moratorium. Our Pauline Lee joins us live in the newsroom with a closer look at some of the concerns. Pauline.
Hi, guys. Yeah, residents seem to be divided on this issue. Those opposed say their concerns are environmental, while those in favor of the project say the pushback they're getting stems from Islamophobia. Now, public comments at last night's meeting lasted for at least an hour at the packed city council meeting, which got heated at times. Half the room held signs that said "Slow the Grow," the other half saying we support the Medina Lakes project. Developers say the project would turn 156 acres of sod farm into a Muslim-friendly community in the city. Supporters of the moratorium say they're concerned with water resources, traffic, and overcrowding. Others say to press pause on this project would be discrimination.
Just find it to be a very important thing for us to stand together and allow our brothers and sisters who worship differently to have their ability to worship and their expression just as the Roman Catholics do.
If this is truly about religion, then please point out where any Lino Lakes residents has made one negative comment about their faith or culture. I'll wait.
Council did not make a decision on whether to impose a moratorium at last night's meeting. Tonight's project presentation in front of the Environmental Review Board, that's happening at 6:30. And the project developers have invited everyone to come and learn more about the project. There is, by the way, a petition online against the project that has more than 2,000 signatures on it. There's also a petition for the project.
All right, I bet. This is going on all over the country, all over. And of course, here you have the Roman Catholic guy getting up there. I was anticipating that to be some liberal Lutheran, because but then again, you see the Catholic charities, the Lutheran charities, the evangelical so-called charities, all involved in opening our borders. And they're getting all this NGO, non-government money,
Hundreds of millions,
billions, right? Billions. And
yes, I was a subcontractor for one of those settlement agencies, so I know exactly how that process works.
What do you want to say about it?
It's a racket. It's a racket. I mean, they get $2,500 a head for each immigrant, and they give them $500 of it, and they live in abject poverty. We were a social services subcontractor for them, trying to provide services to the Afghan refugees. And one of our clients got jumped and mugged and ended up in the hospital. And he said, "You know what? I'd rather go and survive the Taliban than continue living here." It was a horrible condition. They're put in these slums, in these ghettos, because they make deals with the landlords to provide cheap rent because they don't have any credit. They have no way of learning the language. They're put with other people in the community that speak the same language, so they never learn English to an extent to be able to get a job. They end up in a life of crime. That's what we see in Minnesota. That's what we see in a lot of these other ghettos in Maryland, in DC. And as a result, they never become integrated into American society. And these charities that are run by either the Catholic charities, there's a couple of Jewish ones, some of them are secular, they keep advocating for these programs because they're making money off of these programs. One of the most important initiatives I think we have is controlling and stopping immigration, at least the way it was, and have a robust system.
Logan, can you let Congressman King know we're running a little bit behind? I don't have my phone. Someone stole my phone. So if someone could let the congressman know I'm running a little behind. I have the database, the Rolodex. My phone has all the numbers for the most part on them. Although Logan's phone is starting to he's starting to outpace me. So, but someone on our team is constantly grabbing one of my phone, and then I feel like I
Makes
don't know.
sense.
I have zero control now about anything. I can't even text
Hello,
them.
this is Steve.
Can't even text them into the control room, tell them I need help out here. Don't do this, call this person. So they've taken away my communication out here other than just do it like I just did. But anyway, we'll get Congressman King on here in just a minute. But first, folks, I want to go to Candace Owens, because again, she just is constantly going after the Jews, the state of Israel. Now she's really going after the Trump administration. Before she claims President Trump now is just a puppet of Benjamin Netanyahu. I'll play that in a minute. But first, set this one up. She's going after Mohammed Khalil, not going after him, but she's defending him. Tell her, remind our audience about this student that the Trump administration wants to get out of the country, working to do that because of what he's been doing and leading and promoting. She's defending him. Before I play that, set it up for us, will you?
Yeah, sure. So we had all of these protests. They were extremely, at times, very violent and vicious against the Jewish students on campus. Prime example was at Columbia, and they were passing out pro-Hamas literature, screaming from the river to the sea, preventing Jewish kids from going to class. They were kicked, beaten, pushed in the hallways. Some of them feared for their lives and didn't come back to class. Property was damaged, rooms were destroyed. And afterwards, when they found out that now, since the Trump administration is come into office, they found out one of these guys was a green card holder that resulted from a student visa and that they were going to deport him. And Candace Owens has just gone bananas and says, this is just like the Biden administration did against Catholics and against moms at school board meetings. And we can't have this kind of, non-transparent criminalization of free speech. And that's absolutely not what's happening. The government has plenty of evidence of how this gentleman supported Hamas. We have Hamas is a foreign terrorist organization. It is designated by the State Department as an FTO, and there are legal consequences to supporting Hamas in this country. Plus, Secretary Rubio laid out under immigration law, they had a right to deport anyone that was advocating for goals that would severely damage our foreign policy and national security interests. So they had laid out the reasons, and she just kept screaming that they have no justification. And so Candace can have whatever opinion of Netanyahu that she wants, but her kind of virulent anti-Zionist stance is just very unchristian. She keeps attaching it to being a Christian, and these are my Christian values, and I want to protect Palestinian babies because I'm a Christian, and yet she has no respect for the role that Israel and the Jewish people play in the Bible. We have a Old Testament and a New Testament in one Bible. And the Lord is very, very clear about how he feels about Israel. That doesn't mean you have to like Netanyahu, but you have to have respect for God's eternal timeline as he lays it out and as he has passed this covenant to God's people. Then we have the church age, but then God returns back to his covenant with the Jewish people and with Israel, and that will be resolved. But she just is, I don't know, she's just so hostile. And I don't know at this point if it's just for likes and comments on her social media, like she's gotten a lot of attention as a result of it, or she truly believes some of the nonsense that she spouts.
And I want to play this clip, but on radio today, I just found out live on the air today that Tucker Carlson just had a pastor on from Minnesota who's now moved to my state of Tennessee, is building a compound or something. And he was on trashing dispensationalism. They're trashing people that believe in the rapture of the church. I mean, this is like strike 4 or 5 for Tucker. He had on, what was it, Munther, whatever his name is, out of Christ at the Checkpoint in Bethlehem, that where Jim Wallace and Bill Hybels' wife goes and takes up the cause of the Christian Palestinians against the Jews.
Yes.
And Tucker's interviewing the guy from that church. He's interviewing all of these different people, but he never brings on anyone to offer the other side and say, well, wait a minute, let me take you to the scripture and show you the scripture in context. Turns out the guy he just interviewed, I think, is at least a partial preterist, thinks a lot of these scriptures related to Israel were done and completed in AD 70 with the fall of Rome, etc. When Rome sacked Jerusalem. So Nero was the Antichrist, etc., etc. So Tucker doesn't ever seem to want to have on anyone else to say, but maybe you ought to consider this. So it seems to be between, and by the way, I think Tucker is getting funded by some Muslim dude. Wasn't Tucker's network being funded by a Muslim dude? Folks should look that.
I did not know that.
Oh, you didn't know that? I'll bring that news. Oh, I'll bring that news story up. Yeah. Let me bring that up.
Because he interviewed a bunch of leaders from Qatar and Saudi. I was actually Prince Talal, who I consider the Grim Reaper of Saudi Islam. He interviewed him and one of the princes of Qatar. So I don't find that surprising, considering he has that level of access.
Yeah, well, and I'll find it here, and people can look it up. But we've shown several examples where he's getting his funding from for his new. Here we go.
And they're both Catholic, by the way, so it kind of coincides that their worldview point is similar.
Oh, Tucker Carlson's Outline Media company just raised $15 million in seed capital. This is from back in 2023, and here's the guy's name: Hamid Malak. Through his newly launched 1789 Capital boutique investment firm, has invested $15 million in seed capital into Last Country, the startup funded by Tucker Carlson and Neil Patel, according to the Wall Street Journal. And people can go, they can go research Mr. Hamid Malik, which we've done and talked about him several times. So one has to wonder what is going on in conservative media. It's very, very sad. But
it really is.
Here, let me go back to Candace. Here we go. Here's what Candace has had to say about Mohammed Khalil. Here we go.
Via a tweet yesterday that he had arrested a person named Mahmoud Khalil. Then the White House blared this out across their social media pages, writing, "Shalom, Mahmoud. He had completed work on his master's degree from Columbia University in December, but he's a legal resident of the United States, okay? He is a green card holder. That is very different from somebody who is here on a student visa, okay? So he was arrested and detained by federal agents after his lawyer said that his green card was revoked by the Trump administration, despite the fact that he hadn't been arrested for engaging in illegal protests. I'm looking at the details. I'm looking for the details, and I'm happy to correct this report if more comes out. But don't put that on us. We can't just be kicking out legal permanent residents because they've spoken in ways that we disagree with. If he called for death, murder, the slaughter of children, I'm willing to partner with you. But at this moment, I don't see it.
Wow. Mahmoud, I guess is his name, so I got it wrong. There goes Mahmoud. So she's defending him big time.
Repeatedly.
Mm-hmm. She doesn't seem to have any compassion for the Jewish students that were tracked down, chased down, accosted, having all these anti-Semitic slurs in their face. Have you ever heard her condemn any of this?
Not once. And actually, in the longer interview, she references that she did a whole podcast on it, which I watched. And she actually says, you're hurting the Jewish students. You're just making more criticism against them that they're being protected. And I was like, what kind of nonsense is that? Like, how do you, it's a clear violation of equal protection under the law when you do not allow Jewish students to go to school. That is absolutely horrific that in 2024 and 25 in this country, the level of anti-Semitism against Jewish students is so high they don't feel safe to go to school. That's just disgusting to me. And the fact that she has absolutely no empathy for that and is taking the side of a guy who's obviously been very virulent in his ideas. There's a bunch of quotes from him. There's his activity in the leadership organization. He was the chief negotiator between Columbia and the student groups to get them to stop their protests. And yet, they want to hide the obvious and say, well, there's no evidence. He hasn't been arrested. You're making this up. It's very disappointing. It's really disappointing that, and as you said, the conservative media seems to be dividing in some honestly, it looks like very theological grounds. It seems like it's fracturing along theological grounds. So it'd be interesting to see what happens.
Have you ever seen conservative talk radio and TV so interested in talking about the Bible? I've been doing that. I haven't. I've been doing this 35 years, okay? I didn't have, quote, competition. I still don't. But I didn't have competition from conservative talk radio, conservative talk TV when it came to talking about the Bible. Now, all of a sudden, Candace and Tucker and so many of these people, they seem obsessed with all of a sudden talking about the Bible. But what they're doing is trying to crowbar twisted scripture to justify their worldview. But again, if we want to go back to hermeneutics and the study of the Bible in its, purpose and intent, and you've already done this now by just talking about we have the Old Testament, we have the Lord dealing with the Old Testament prophets, then we have 400 years of silence, then we have the New Testament, then we have the disciples who become the apostles, then we have the laying down the foundational doctrine of the church, then we have the church in the book of Acts, now we're in the church age, then after the church is removed, then we go into the tribulation period, now we have tribulation saints, and we're in a new dispensation, and now new things are happening. You have an angel, multiple angels flying across the sky, one of them warning about not taking the mark of the beast, another warning about proclaiming what is the gospel. We have two witnesses in Jerusalem shutting up the heavens from raining and fire coming out of their mouth.
And the 120,000 men of Israel who are marked.
Yes,
for salvation.
We have 144,000 Jewish men who are marked and sealed physically and spiritually, who survive and roll into the 1,000-year millennial reign of Christ, where we do see the full land covenant of Genesis 15 fulfilled. And what you're talking about is these different dispensations. God's character nature doesn't change, but how he chooses to work and what he works through. And now the instrument is the church. During that tribulation period, God is going to be working mightily through Gentiles, but he's going to be working super mightily through Jews, the Jewish evangelists you mentioned, who actually have probably some kind of physical mark that's and it's a physical and spiritual sealing, and they become great evangelists. And the Bible talks about the number of people becoming saved is so many, one can hardly number them. But now it's gone from being the church, who's been removed, and to the really Jewish evangelist is God's becoming a mighty instrument, right? So these are disparate dispensations, and it helps us understand the house rules. This dispensation is house rules, and we keep using those same house rules to study and interpret. Well, here's Tucker Carlson interviewing this guy this week, trashing dispensationalism. And I'm like, why? Okay, you're a political guy. You're not a theologian. And it was pretty obvious to me watching the interview today for the first time when the guy's talking and the camera goes to Tucker. Tucker's like, oh, yeah. But I'm like, that's the face and reaction of a guy who has no idea what's being said. Woo! It's just a guy that can help to destroy, I think, what he sees as an opposition spiritually and politically, which is evangelical Zionist Christians and dispensationalists coming around Israel and our Jewish friends, which is, includes you as a former Muslim, my friend Shahram Hadian as a former Muslim, my friend Annie from Iran, Shahram's from Iran, my friend Usama Dakdak from Egypt, who was never a Muslim, but his daddy planted churches throughout Egypt, and the Muslim Brotherhood destroyed them all. I mean, we got Christians, we got Jews, we got former Muslims, we got Egyptians, and we're all in the same boat. And yet, Tucker Carlson and these guys are attacking all of us from our different backgrounds, quite diverse. But we have what we all share in common is our interpretation of the scripture, which these guys are now railing on. And people on Twitter today are calling it immoral. They're calling it a false gospel. They're calling it evil. This is what they're saying about
ours or his.
Ours.
Well, which one are they calling?
They're calling us dispensationalist, evil, immoral, false gospel.
And Pastor Jack Hibbs did a presentation about this, didn't call out Countess by name, but he's like, you know what? I'm not going to argue with you about domestic policy. I'm not going to argue with you about BLM, but about religion, theology, please get out of the space. You are out of your depth. This is not your lane. Stay in your lane. But we also know before the coming of the Antichrist, there's a great falling away. And we saw COVID fracture the church. A bunch of people just left. They just left. The church closed and people left Christianity. And so I think this is another fracturing of the church, where there's this great falling away from people who just don't want to support Israel. And we know that from Ezekiel 38 too, right? That there's nobody that will come to their defense. And it's just that we see how this rise of anti-Semitism, as it happens century after century after century, and yet God upholds his people. I mean, they are proof of God's miraculous protection, because they should have been extinguished by now, except for God's grace and God's mercy on them. And so if we want to believe all the promises that God has told us, then we should believe in the promises he told them. Amen. So that God's nature is unchanging, and that we could have the same assurance of our salvation and of our that Christ died for our sins, as they will be redeemed by God in the last days. So we, unfortunately, there's all of this. They have such large platforms. And again, as I mentioned, they're both Catholics. I think it is connected to some of the old Catholic doctrine and the, Jews killed Jesus mentality. This is kind of a modern version of that originally gave rise to anti-Semitism in the church. And so I think they're just kind of speaking a version of that. And unfortunately, it's going to taint a lot of people who don't know better. And that's unfortunate.
Very, very well said, Hadia. I said today on radio, I said, we've had the people on the left come after us for years, but now I'm increasingly seeing the people on the right. And I said, I was talking to my friend, Dr. Andy Woods, and then my Israeli reporter, Aaron. I said, pretty soon we're going to find ourselves surrounded by people on the left and the right. There's a small group of us, and pretty soon we're going to be surrounded by the left and the right attacking us. Yes. But what's really ironic is some of those people on the left are Jews, and they're going to find, that guy that I never liked his politics and really didn't care for his Jesus talk, that Brandon House, I've got to get over to Tennessee, because if there was a guy that would protect me, it would be him and his people. I got to get to his house. And I said, some of you liberal Jews, you're going to find out Brandon House and his followers are who you're going to come to for help, and we're going to give it to you, because we know what God has said. So I find it fascinating that some of them, even on the left, are starting they're starting to realize, hey, that Brandon House guy, he maybe isn't what I thought he was. Do I agree with him politically? No. Do I agree with him on his Christian worldview? No. But he's standing up for us Jews, and these are liberal leftist Jews. So I think it's going to get very interesting very fast. Well, one last clip. Candace is now out attacking President Trump. Listen to this, guys. Here we go.
You've got the Human Health Secretary, RFK Jr., saying, we have to declare this an epidemic. And what we're really talking about is people voicing opinions against Israel's policies on blowing up Palestinian kids. You can accept that or you cannot accept that. It is just the reality. And if you don't understand how close we are inching to them destroying free speech, and once speech goes, everything else goes, then you need to start paying attention. They are redefining anti-Semitism to even be parts of the Bible. They are saying that it is anti-Semitism, and the Trump administration is pushing this on college campuses, to even suggest that a Jewish person might be more loyal to Israel than they are to America. That's totally plausible. It's totally plausible that a black person in America might be more loyal to Uganda than they are to America. Like that is like, why are we redefining this? Portions of the Bible? I mean, it's getting crazy. So I want to show you this Senate hearing. So they had another Senate hearing, like the one that I showed up on, except this one, it was on anti-Semitism on college campuses. And I want you to listen to what this rabbi got up and said as he called for hate speech laws. Okay, this is Rabbi Levi Shemtov. He is the executive vice president of American Friends of Lubavitch. This is like a Lubavitcher who I spoke about. And RFK Jr. came and said, don't speak about Lubavitch. And I said, this is actually a very radical form of Judaism. Here is what he said. Listen to him standing up, Rabbi Levi Shemtov. Here's what he wants for America.
Anti-Semitism is not just an age-old prejudice. It is a contemporary crisis manifesting on campuses across the nation. It is not enough for individuals or institutions to merely claim they are not anti-Semitic. As my father once taught me, it is not enough for people, especially public figures, to be neutral or not be anti-Semitic. One must be anti-Semitic.
That is the exact same rhetoric, okay, as Ibram X. Kendi during the peak of BLM saying it's not enough to be racist, you have to actively be anti-racist. It's exact same rhetoric, okay? There's no way to slice it. So what is happening right now that we, meaning the people who voted for and have supported Trump for years and got him into office because we actually were standing up to him when BLM was going crazy and calling everybody white supremacists, and people, while Trump was in office, there were George Floyd riots, people that stood up for him and said, this is wrong, are now watching his administration execute the exact same thing, but this time it's for anti-Semitism. And it's not even for anti-Semitism, really. It's because this is not helpful to Jews in America. It's for Israel. Like, it feels like Netanyahu is running the White House and Trump's just signing and doing whatever they say. Right? It feels like Netanyahu should be sitting in the Oval Office as they demand hate speech laws and they get what they want. Every day they're announcing something that they're going to do to further support Israel. And that something is now looking to me like a detriment to American freedom. And if you can't see that, okay, it is time for you to take off the rose-colored glasses. Because just because Trump was against all of this in 2016 does not mean that he does not have people that are around him who are for this.
Okay, so now Benjamin Netanyahu
So much
is the one.
to unpack.
Say that again?
There's so much to unpack there.
Well, there is. And Trump is now being controlled by Netanyahu. He's pulling the purse strings. He's running the Oval Office, which I said on radio today. If that's the case, why did Benjamin Netanyahu just put tariffs on his country from the U.S.? Because that's what President Trump just did. He just put tariffs on Israel. So if he's in charge, why didn't Benjamin Netanyahu stop that? Because he's not in charge. He's running his country. President Trump's running his. Now, when it comes to hate speech laws, just because one rabbi makes a statement about it's not going to have to be, against anti-Semitism, you need to be anti-Semitism. Okay, I don't know if he was testifying about hate speech laws or not, because she didn't play the full clip. Who knows?
Yeah.
I am not a big fan of hate speech laws because I think the laws as they are written can take care of people being accosted, slander, liable, stalked, that kind of thing. I have in my book, The Coming Religious Reich, where then Tony Blair in Europe is pushing for laws to prosecute and criminalize those who deny the Holocaust. And some rabbis came along and said, hey, as much as we hate Holocaust deniers, we don't want laws that will prosecute that because that limits free speech. And as soon as that's passed, they're going to come after our free speech. So I can show you rabbis who would say, I don't want to do that. So just because she can show you maybe a rabbi that does, I can show you, quote, rabbis and Jews that are anti-Semites that hate Israel. I mean, it's hard to explain, but they're marching out there for Hamas, okay? So don't just pick a guy and say, well, no, we're going to paint the whole Jewish community with this, number one. But number two, she will not get off this topic.
No. I don't even know where to start. So first of all, this idea where she says, we can't accuse them of being loyal to a state other than America, that should be our free speech. What she's basically, and what the Jewish community, based on the history that they've suffered, remember, based on the Inquisition and then with Nazi Germany and all of these threads that have happened to Jewish communities throughout the world, the accusation of sedition and treason against the state are very serious accusations, basically saying that they are a state within a state, that they don't pledge loyalty to the United States. These are very serious accusations. So if the hearing was about preventing that or, concerned about people saying that, that's a very serious thing. And I think we should be paying attention to those kind of accusations, because labeling an entire community as seditious or treasonous is dangerous and is wrong. But she also goes into this that whole diatribe with Netanyahu. Clearly, nobody controls Trump. I mean, let's be real. Nobody tells him what to do. It doesn't matter whether it's Elon Musk or Netanyahu or you name it, who. I mean, even look at how he came out against DeSantis when he was running in the campaign. I mean, you thought those two were pretty close, and then he just came out firing against him. I don't know, he had acrimonious or something. He had funny names for him. But anyways, I think that was a low blow, unnecessary. And the fact that she doesn't think we should be defending Jewish kids on campus. Again, I'm just so disappointed in her that she hasn't watched these, hours of footage about what was happening to the Jewish kids on campus and thought that that's worthy for us to pay attention to. It's so surprising to me. And again, I think it's clickbait at this point. She's come out. If you read her comments section, there are a ton of Muslims now who support her. So if that was her goal, to get a whole new audience, she's been very successful at it. But at what cost? I think she's sacrificed a lot of important values to be sensational on social media.
Wow. Well, folks, now you know why Hadia is going to be our keynote speaker for our banquet Thursday night, October 2nd, here in the Mid-South. The tickets went on sale tonight. We have added no profit in those tickets. Those are simply the cost of the evening for the ballroom and the meal, which is amazing. It's one of Melissa and I's favorite restaurants. They have the best steak, the best chicken, which they marinate, the best baked potatoes, salad. It is one of our favorite restaurants, and we are food snobs, Melissa and I, because Melissa's a fabulous cook. You guys all know that. You've seen her cooking show that she does for us for this network. So I don't have to go to restaurants because my wife every day says, or every evening, a lot of times at night, she'll say, what would you like for dinner tomorrow night? So she can plan her menu. I can have whatever I want. It's like being the president, and I have a chef. All I have to do is pick up the phone and call and say, hey, hon, I'd like to have, and it's there. And if I don't tell her what I want, she gets upset. She's like, it's so much easier if you just tell me what it is you want. So yes, I get wine chicken, I get chicken stacky uppy, I get her famous chicken and rice, I get the sweet and sour with pineapple. I can order up tons, all right? So I'm a food snob because I have a great wife or a cook. And Melissa and I's favorite restaurant is where we're holding this year's banquet. We didn't even know they had a ballroom. Wow. Didn't even know they have a ballroom, Hadia. Last week we were there having dinner, and I said, our audience would love this food. It is not banquet rubber chicken food. This is one of our favorite restaurants because the food's so good. I said, what if they have a banquet hall? I'd see these little meeting rooms off to the side, but they're just really small. So I said, I got nothing to lose to go look. So at the end of my meal, I got up, I walked down the hall, saw this long hall. I took a right down this formal hallway, and there's these two big doors at the end. And I said, there might be a ballroom in there. And I opened them up, and sure enough, big, beautiful ballroom. So I asked to see the manager, and they put me in touch with the owner's daughter. And we have secured that banquet hall, and you guys are going to get an amazing meal. The seating is limited that Thursday night, and Hadia is our keynote speaker, and the tickets, it's now on the website. They're telling me in the control room. Caleb got it up there. Worldviewstore.com, Thursday night's banquet. Tickets are now available, and Hadia will be our keynote speaker. So, Hadia, awesome. I know we're going to be visiting with you a lot between now and then, but I also want to promote your website, resurrectministry.com, resurrectministry.com. And as you go on there, you'll also find out about her. I think we've got Jack Hibbs on here. I think he pops up in one of the pictures. If I keep going. There he is. there he is. So there you go. In fact, I think you're doing something with him live on November 30th, it looked like. So there you go. So check it out, resurrectministry.com, resurrectministry.com. So great to have you with us, Hadia. I know we're going to have you back, but thanks for making time for us today.
My pleasure. Really looking forward to the banquet. I happen to be a big foodie myself, and so is my husband. So we're super excited.
Well, good. And I look forward to meeting your husband. You guys are going to love this. This is a restaurant in the South here where they cook the steaks and everything right there on a big, huge charcoal grill in the middle of the restaurant. And the food is just, it's so fresh. The salads are fresh. Everything is just great. So it's going to be a fun night for food, but also great fellowship and a great keynote address.
And I look forward to meeting your audience too.
Yeah, and the whole crew in the control room, all of them are eager to meet you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hadia checking in tonight. Visit our website, resurrectministry.com, resurrectministry.com. All right, folks, don't forget we are going to Milwaukee. Milwaukee's coming up April 15th. That is a free event. It's our Worldview Radio Understanding the Times rally. And I think we have a graphic for it. There it is right there. It is free. It's going to be myself, Dr. Andy Woods. Aaron Lavarco will be live in the building from Israel. It's free, but you must register. worldviewtube.com/events. worldviewtube.com/events. Very important that you do that so you have a seat. Otherwise, if you don't have internet, well, of course you have internet. How are you watching now? worldviewtube.com/events. For radio, sometimes I give out a number because those people listening to radio don't have internet. But if you're watching this show, you clearly have internet. worldviewtube.com/events. worldviewtube.com/events. It's free, but you must register so we can put out enough seats. All right. Also, don't forget about our worldviewwater.net. worldviewwater.net. I have this right here under my kitchen sink to take out all the toxins. It also adds magnesium and oxygen, which are great for my cells. And it takes out harmful toxins, lead, fluoride, cyanide, arsenic. Yeah, you don't want to drink any of that. Pesticides, pharmaceuticals. I also have one for the shower. That's this one right there, the far right, as well. So again, check it all out. This is the water I give Dolly as well. worldviewwater.net. worldviewwater.net. We talked last night about the fact that, we might end up with a big old trade war with China, and they provide a lot of our pharmaceuticals. We're also getting word that pharmacies are not filling a lot of prescriptions, particularly when it comes to antibiotics. You don't want to be caught without antibiotics. This is not a joke. Worldviewhealthcare.com. That's the new URL. Worldviewhealthcare.com. You'll also find it on the sponsors page, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Otherwise, worldviewhealthcare.com. Get your medical kits here, folks. Get your medical kits and have them stocked away for when you need them. Like last fall when I had pneumonia, I didn't have to go to urgent care and get an antibiotic. We just were able to go down the hall and open the closet and pull the medical kit out and take it. Okay? If there, God forbid, is a disruption of inventory, just-in-time supplies, trade war with China. China goes after Taiwan. We get involved. They stop shipping our prescription drugs to us. You want to go ahead and get some of this in advance. And also check out their healthcare plans. They get you free prescriptions, or the Elite, which gets you free prescriptions and free supplements. So check all that out as well. Look at all these things available here at worldviewtube.com/sponsors. One of them, of course, is the wellness company, worldviewhealthcare.com.